You know what's been making some serious waves in the crypto market lately? Quant QNT.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been popping up on my radar with some significant price action. And it makes you wonder, what's really going on under the hood?
Well, Quant is a fascinating project. It's got a really clear mission, basically to act as a bridge.
A bridge.
Yeah, connecting different blockchain networks and, interestingly, even traditional financial systems. They launched back in 2018, I believe.
Right.
And their main thing, the Overledger network, it's designed to be like a universal translator, for blockchains, allowing them to communicate and transact without issues.
Okay, like a blockchain operating system.
Exactly, making different ledgers just work together.
A universal translator for blockchains. Okay, I like that analogy. So for this deep dive, we've gathered quite a range of sources to really try and understand what's driving Quant.
Good idea.
We've got technical analysis from Investec, some price predictions from places like Changelly and 3 Commas, and also some, broader market context from Droom, InvestX, and Bankless Times.
Right, a good mix. So our goal today is, I guess, to go beyond just looking at the price charts, right?
Exactly.
We want to understand the real story behind Quant's recent moves, analyze what the technical indicators are actually saying, figure out the key events maybe fueling these changes.
Yeah, what's the catalyst?
And get a sense of what different experts are predicting for its future, where it might be heading.
All right, let's jump right in then. What does the current market landscape look like for QNT right now, say, as of May 8th?
Okay, so May 8th, 2025. The data points to some pretty strong upward momentum, actually. Investec reported a closing price of $93.23.
Okay.
Which was a notable 6.43% jump. But what's really interesting here is their medium-term analysis.
What did they say?
It suggests a potential shift. They saw QNT break through what they call the ceiling of a falling trend channel.
Right, okay. What does that mean in, normal terms?
Basically, it means the downward pressure we've seen might be easing off. It could lead to a more stable price, maybe sideways movement, or potentially even the start of a new upward trend.
Okay.
They do note support around $80 and resistance near $103.
So that break from the falling trend, it's like the price finally punching through the clouds, maybe?
Kind of, yeah. That's one way to think about it. And in the short term, Investec's RSI, the Relative Strength Index.
Yeah, the momentum indicator.
Right. It's above 70. Think of the RSI as like a gauge of buyer enthusiasm. When it's high, like above 70, it usually signals buyers are feeling pretty optimistic.
Which could mean more price increases.
It can, yeah. Potential for further increase. But they also add a note of caution.
Oh.
For bigger cryptocurrencies, a really high RSI can sometimes mean things have gotten a little too hot, overbought.
Right.
And we might see a slight cooling off, a downward reaction. So something to watch.
Good to keep that in mind. What goes up sometimes needs a breather, I guess.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the raw numbers. What are Changelly and 3 Commas telling us? Price, activity.
Okay. Changelly's data, same day, shows a price around $93.29. Solid 6% plus increase over 24 hours.
Okay.
They put the market cap, the total value of all circulating tokens, at around $1.22 billion, about 12 million QNT circulating.
And volume.
Trading volume for the last day was about $16 million, according to them.
Okay. And how does that stack up against 3 Commas? Are they seeing similar things?
Well, 3 Commas has slightly different figures, actually. They report a price of $95.32, so a bit higher, up almost 8% in the last day.
Interesting.
Their market cap is also higher, $1.386 billion. And they recorded a much larger 24-hour trading volume, over $44 million.
Wow, quite a difference in volume.
Yeah. And they also have Quant, ranked at number 76 by market cap, and a circulating supply closer to 14.5 million QNT. So general agreement on the positive price move, definitely, but some variations in those broader market metrics.
Yeah, those discrepancies are interesting. What about Droom's data? Do they sort of fall in line with this upward trend?
Yes, Droom's numbers are also looking positive. They show a price of $95.47, so similar to 3 Commas, a 4.1% increase in 24 hours.
Okay.
Their market cap is $1.15 billion, so closer to Changelly's figure. And their 24-hour volume is $38.52 million.
Still pretty high volume.
Yeah, and they specifically noted that's a significant 45% increase in volume. Their circulating supply is also around 12 million QNT, like Changelly.
Okay, so across the board, pretty clear that Quant saw a significant jump in price and trading activity around May 8th. So the big question, What's the catalyst? What's fueling this surge?
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. The InvestX report specifically points to a massive 26% surge in Quant's price over the preceding week.
26% in a week. Wow. Okay, why?
They attribute this primarily to a really significant development, a strategic partnership with the European Central Bank, the ECB.
Wait, the ECB from the Digital Euro project.
That's the one.
That's huge news.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Absolutely. It seems the ECB has officially chosen Quant Network as a technology partner. They're going to help build in features like programmability and, crucially, interoperability into the future digital euro.
Wow.
And what's truly significant here isn't just the price jump, though that's notable. It's the validation this gives to Quant's whole idea, you know?
Yeah, that seamless connection thing.
Exactly. The idea that seamless connection between different financial systems is the future. The ECB picking them signals a potential paradigm shift where interoperability isn't just a nice to have, it's core.
Right. A core requirement for digital currencies.
Precisely. It puts Quant right at the heart of the tech infrastructure for CBDCs in Europe.
So Quant's core mission, bridging traditional finance and Web3, it's actually being validated on a massive scale here.
That's exactly how InvestX frames it. They emphasize this firmly positions Quant as a key player in the EU's digital transformation, their Overledger platform acting as that crucial bridge.
Makes sense.
And Bankless Times also highlights the immense importance of this ECB partnership. They even suggested it could be the reason for a potential 40% price increase for QNT.
40%. Okay.
Yeah. And they also mentioned the creation of a digital euro innovation platform where Quant is an active participant. So they're really involved.
Beyond this landmark ECB partnership, though, are there other collaborations that are maybe contributing to this positive feeling around Quant?
Oh, definitely. Bankless Times points out that Quant Overledger is specifically designed to be blockchain agnostic.
Meaning it works with any blockchain.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's targeting large enterprises. They list a number of other significant partnerships, too.
Like who?
Oracle, for instance. Quant powers their blockchain platform Digital Assets Edition. Also, SIA, Constellation Network, KPMG, Hitachi, and Deloitte.
Wow, those are big names.
Yeah. These partnerships really showcase the broad potential applications and, the adoption potential for Quant's tech across different sectors.
So fundamentally, the picture looks very strong with these high-profile partnerships. Okay, let's go back to InvestTech's technical analysis for a second. That breakout from the falling trend channel, what does that actually tell us about the price action again?
Right. Think of it like this. The falling trend channel was like a lid, kind of keeping the price suppressed. When the price breaks above that lid, it suggests that the previous downward pressure might be losing steam. It could signal either a period of more sideways movement,
like consolidation?
Yeah, consolidation as the market digests the change, or it could even be the beginning of a new upward trend. Though InvestTech's initial take was a bit more cautious, slower decline or horizontal trading.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about that strongly positive short-term momentum, the RSI above 70? We said it means buying pressure, but what's the implication for where the price might go next?
Well, like we said, it indicates strong buying interest right now, and Bankless Times actually supports this. They noted a recent break above a key resistance level at $80.
$80 was resistance.
Yeah. Resistance levels are like ceilings the prices struggled to break through before, so breaking through them can be a really significant bullish sign.
Suggesting it has momentum to go higher.
Exactly. Bankless Times believes this $80 break could indeed signal a more significant, maybe even longer-term shift in the trend.
That's certainly encouraging.
Yeah.
Are there any other technical indicators that are kind of reinforcing this positive outlook?
Yes. Bankless Times points out a couple more things. QNT hasn't just broken its 50-day moving average, which is a common short-term trend indicator.
Right.
But it's also surpassed the 76.8% Fibonacci retracement level.
Okay, Fibonacci levels. Those are based on math ratios, right? Used by traders.
Yeah, exactly. Some traders use them to spot potential support and resistance. Breaking above that 76.8% level is often seen as a sign of strengthening bullish momentum.
Got it.
Plus, they highlight that the RSI, our buyer enthusiasm gauge, and another indicator called MACD are both rising on the daily chart. That further supports the idea of increasing upward pressure.
So it really looks like both the fundamental news, that huge ECB partnership, And these technical indicators are aligning in a pretty positive way for Quant right now.
Seems that way.
What about the overall market sentiment then? And what's the on-chain data telling us? Are investors actually acting on this optimism?
Well, Investex RSI being above 70 is itself a reflection of that growing investor optimism.
True.
And Investex provides some interesting data from the blockchain itself. They reported a significant 25.27% increase in the number of daily active users on the Quant network.
Oh, wow. More people using it.
Yeah. They also note the total market value, the cap, rose to $1.3 billion, and daily trading volume was up 5.7% to over $30 million. Increased user activity and trading volume often suggests growing interest and adoption.
Absolutely. More people using the network, more tokens, changing hands.
Yeah.
Usually points to increased interest, yeah.
Exactly. And Bankless Times adds another interesting piece here. They've observed a decline in the amount of QNT held on crypto exchanges.
Less QNT on exchanges. Why is that significant?
Well, it fell from about 1.08 million tokens back in November to around 938,000 now. A decrease in exchange reserves can suggest that people are moving their tokens off exchanges.
Let's hold them.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe for the long term, not looking to sell right away is generally considered a bullish signal, less immediate selling pressure.
I see.
And finally, Droom's analysis of community sentiment shows a strong 79% positive feeling about Quant right now.
Okay, so it sounds like the market sentiment is overwhelmingly positive, backed up by more on-chain activity, maybe less selling pressure on exchanges, and a good buzz in the community. Now, for the million-dollar question, maybe literally, what are the price predictions looking like for Quant?
Right, and this is where we start to see a bit of a divergence in opinions.
Ooh. Not all bullish.
Well, Changelly's short-term forecast for May 2025 has an average prediction around $123.85, with a potential range from about $91 up to $131.
Okay, so still pointing upwards in the near term.
Yeah. And they also offer longer-term predictions that get increasingly optimistic year after year. They suggest pretty significant potential returns on investment down the line.
Like how far out?
Looking into 2026, 2027, and beyond, both their average and maximum price targets rise substantially in those forecasts. But, it's important to remember.
Longer term means more uncertainty.
Exactly. Those forecasts come with a much wider degree of uncertainty.
That's quite an optimistic outlook from Changelly, though.
What about 3 Commas? What have they gathered from other experts?
Yeah, 3 Commas presents a more mixed picture. They draw on forecasts from various analysts, their 2025 predictions from sources like Light Finance, Trading Beasts, Wallet Investor. They generally show an expectation of prices more in the low to mid $90.
To 90. So some are actually predicting lower than the current price we just discussed.
Interestingly, yes. Some of those forecasts are actually lower than the price around May 8th. So a much more cautious, maybe even slightly bearish view for the rest of this year from some of these experts. So not everyone is expecting this surge to just continue immediately. What about their longer-term views beyond 2025?
Their longer-term predictions, looking out to 2026 through 2030, also show quite a range. Some experts predict prices might stay around current levels or even dip below them in the near future.
Really?
Yeah. While others do anticipate more significant growth, but maybe in the later years of that period, like 2028 to 2030, there's definitely less of a clear consensus in the longer-term predictions that 3 Commas compiled. More variation.
Okay. And Mitre, they mentioned bearish pressure below $80, but didn't give specific predictions in the stuff we saw.
That's right. No specific numbers from them in that excerpt. But Bankless Times did give us a potential short-term target based on their technical analysis, didn't they?
They did, yeah. What was it again?
Based on their technicals, Bankless Times suggested a potential short-term target of $122.
$122?
Which they saw as roughly a 40% increase from the price when they analyzed it.
Okay, so we have some potentially bullish short-term targets, maybe driven by the ECB news reaction to the technical signals we saw, but then some more traditional expert forecasts are taking a more wait-and-see approach for the immediate future.
That sums it up pretty well.
Right. Finally, let's briefly touch on the real-world asset, or RWA, theme that Bankless Times brought up. How does Quant fit into that whole picture?
Yeah, that's a really important angle, I think. Bankless Times points out that Quant, especially with its focus on enterprise solutions and its existing partnerships in traditional finance,
like the banks and consulting firms.
Exactly. It's very likely to benefit from this growing trend of RWA tokenization.
Tokenizing things like real estate, right?
Right. As more tangible assets, real estate, commodities, maybe even intellectual property get brought onto the blockchain in tokenized form, Quant's ability to connect these different systems via Overledger could become increasingly valuable, increasingly in demand.
Makes sense. If you have assets on different chains, you need a way for them to interact. Okay, well, let's try and synthesize all of this then. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive into Quant today?
Okay. Firstly, it's clear Quant is experiencing significant positive momentum right now. The primary driver really appears to be that groundbreaking partnership with the European Central Bank for the digital euro.
Yeah, that seems undeniable.
That news hasn't just fueled a notable surge in price and trading volume, but it's also likely contributed to those positive technical indicators and the general boost in market optimism we discussed.
We've seen that reflected across multiple data sources, yeah.
Exactly. However, and this is crucial, it's important to acknowledge that while the short-term outlook looks promising based on the technicals and the immediate ECB news impact,
There's a but.
there's a but. Some expert price forecasts remain more conservative or even suggest potential downward movement in the near term.
So still some caution out there in the broader analyst community about where the price goes next, immediately.
Precisely. But then when you zoom out and look at the longer-term potential,
Right.
particularly as highlighted by some predictions and thinking about the evolving digital finance landscape, the RWA tokenization trend, Quant's unique interoperability solutions position it as a potentially really significant player down the road.
So while the immediate future might have some differing opinions, the long-term narrative for Quant, especially with its strong fundamentals and these strategic partnerships, appears pretty compelling to at least some observers.
I think that's a fair and nuanced summary.
Yeah.
Which kind of leaves us with a thought-provoking question for you, the listener.
Right.
Given the strong fundamental development, like this ECB partnership and the current market enthusiasm,
Yeah.
how might the actual integration of Quant's technology into the European digital currency ecosystem truly impact its long-term value and adoption beyond just, price speculation?
Good question. What's the real-world impact?
Exactly. And what crucial role will its blockchain-agnostic Overledger platform play in a future that seems increasingly headed towards interconnected blockchain networks coexisting with traditional financial systems? It's definitely a space worth watching very closely.